Hello, my name is MJohn90, and this is my Gears Tactics review. Gears Tactics was recently released for the PC via Steam and the Windows Store on April 28, 2020. I played through it on experienced difficulty, and it's a mixed bag to say the least. With that said, however, I think it's only fair to talk about the things I did like first. Overall, both the gameplay and story, two main features of the game, are both pretty good. You not only feel a genuine connection to your customizable squad members, but to your main characters and heroes to boot. I have gripes about the story, but I'll get to those later. Good things continue to happen where gameplay is concerned as well. Each class role, Heavy, Support, Sniper, Vanguard, and Scout, all have a unique feel from each other and end up having impactful combat moments, especially when you include the dynamic skill tree that each class has. It's fun to have your Scouts and Vanguards push up and antagonize the enemy, only for said enemy to be shredded by your Sniper and Heavy, laying down devastating Overwatch shots. Props should also be given out to the graphic settings, which are surprisingly in-depth and varied, letting the player fully choose whether to eke out a little more style or FPS. Now for the not-so-fresh aspect of Gears Tactics. Throughout my playthrough, I encountered multiple game-breaking bugs, glitches, and/or crashes, causing me either to restart a mission from the very beginning, even if I completed the mission and the game crashed during the outro cinematic, or force me to abort the mission entirely and also restart the entire thing when the problem persists through a reloaded checkpoint. One such bug, glitch, what have you, happened during the Corpser boss fight. After completing the first bar of health, you get a checkpoint and things are beginning to ramp up, as one might expect for a boss fight. This, unlike most boss fights, went from about a 7 out of 10 difficulty to about a 23 out of 10. This is a series of events that left me utterly flustered. It will start with an emergent soul that would open up, another emergent soul setting to open up next turn, a boomer and two drones coming out of the first emergent soul, a pair of grenadiers and another pair of drones being dropped off by a reaver, as well as a corpser laying down mines or doing its 3-lane wave attack. Not only would another emergent soul open up every turn, not only did reavers drop off squads on every turn, boomers were the main enemy to come out of the emergent souls. An enemy at which, in this point of the game, is still a difficult mini-boss. I spent 2 hours trying to get further than just 2 more turns in after I got the first bar of health down. 2 hours praying that enemies would miss their shots or their AI would somehow have a stroke. But that was all in vain. Spent 2 hours praying that my units wouldn't get flung around by boomers. Having this happen during a boss fight is what made it all the more frustrating. It might have been possible without the Corpser, but with it, it was never going to happen. If I failed to properly maneuver out of the way of mines or the waves of death, damage and death were my unit's fate. As I said before, this happened during a boss fight, so color me surprised when I restarted the mission, got back to the same checkpoint, and found the enemy spawns were at a level that was manageable, and I beat the boss fight, that same attempt with no units going down or dying. Possibly the most damning thing about the game is the over-reliance on a single mechanic. Having combat effectiveness definitively not tied to careful planning on the battlefield or mindful management of resources at your home base, but rather to luck. Gears Tactics, like its XCOM counterparts, has a lot of luck involved. However, any semblance of balance to counteract the bad luck you will inevitably have is thrown off a 30-story building when it is tied to equipment cases, aka loot boxes. Now, these aren't your typical microtransaction hellhole. There isn't even a store to buy more of them. Thus, the only way you acquire them is through missions. This doesn't mean that they don't impact almost every aspect of the game. Why, even while you're about to beat the game, can you only bring 4 squad mates? Why put so many equipment cases on the ground for soldiers to pick up during a mission? Why have an entire mission dedicated to grabbing as many as you can before they explode? Why do your soldiers gain experience so slowly? Why is there a dedicated tab in the menu for opening them, where you watch them open, see how many you have left to open, and you open them one by one? Not to mention that it is in fact random. The items you get in these cases that you need to progress through the game are random. A majority of how your troops perform isn't tied to your skill or what abilities they have, it's tied to what equipment you've managed to grab along the way. With some fun yet what feels like required stat boosts, and secondary abilities tied to armor and weapon upgrades you get from the cases, there's this feeling that this system was once much more sinister. This is further amplified by 3 other factors. First, unlike XCOM, you don't have a lab or an armory to research and build upgrades for you and your troops. You instead have loot boxes. Second, there are some missions later on, even while completing 95% of the bonus objectives, doing so grants you a case, and grabbing at bare minimum 2 cases off the ground a mission, I still felt severely underpowered. Lastly, Gears Tactics enforces artificial tension. Let me explain. In XCOM, whether your troops get injured or even die, what upgrades you go for first, grabbing resources to complete said upgrades, and both failing and completing missions all have an impact on the state of your campaign, thus making you care about the story as a whole. None of this is true in Tactics, with mission objectives constantly preventing you from letting a character die, because if they die they can't be in a cutscene later, as well as putting mission modifiers that vary wildly in difficulty. Enemies get 300% evasion while in cover, your units receive 1 less action point per turn in a mission where flying bombs are chasing you. While I do appreciate the attempt to vary gameplay, and some of the missions with the special modifiers are genuinely fun, a majority of them feel BS to say the least. Don't forget that the only thing you get for completing these missions is the equipment cases, where all the loot is random. Have a favorite unit that you want to upgrade and give the best gun? Too bad. You have to hope that one of the hundreds of cases you grab along the way has at least a piece to give to your fave. All the progress of the main campaign is done through cutscenes. You don't slow down Ukon's progress by completing even the sabotage missions, or you literally blow up the main resource this guy is after. You just get more cases. That's it. In a game about tactics, it just ends up being Gears cases. Though I don't have any definitive proof that there were once microtransactions in the game, the writing's on the wall. There are just too many factors that will push a player to purchase cases for the option not to have been there in the game at some point. To close off this review, I want to highlight just a couple more things, both good and, well, more disappointing than bad. The good. Gears Tactics is a very good looking game, especially the cutscenes. Another positive note is the customizability on individual units is legitimately impressive. Being able to customize the look of each armor piece and weapon on a unit is fun. The not so good. Gears Tactics lacks charm. Your base in XCOM Enemy Within and XCOM 2 was a lively structure that felt lived in. Your mission select screen being this globe, where the status of your resistance against your foe and the status of the world as a whole are on display. In Gears Tactics, it's just a static menu screen. Being forced to bring specific units on missions constantly, and only ever having your squad size be 4, it detracts from wanting to upgrade the other non-hero units and an outright refusal to recruit more than the bare minimum for what is needed for missions. As far as a score is concerned, I'm giving the game a 5 out of 10. While not downright awful, there's way too much holding it back for me to widely recommend the game. Who would I recommend it to? Fans of Gears and people looking to get into turn-based strategy games. That's about it though. Where a majority of players will come from is the XCOM fans, but don't bother. You already have far superior games that don't focus on loot boxes in a single player game.